Okay, so we just have the shortcut menus now to finish the menus, and they are shortcut menus, so almost everything in them we've covered already in these menus here, so they're just shortcuts now. Just to repeat, I have assigned, and I told you the best way to work is to assign the right click to bring up the toolbox. Right, now we've been into this. If you go to Logic Pro Preferences General and choose the Editing tab, this is where we change the right mouse button. Yeah, by default it opens the shortcut menu, and then you right click on the background, you get the small shortcut menu. Right click on a note or other event, you get the larger shortcut menu. And I say to you, put it into this mode so it opens the tools menu. Okay, in which case you can do control left click on the background, control left click on the note to get the shortcut menus. You can though also assign the right mouse button to open the tools and the shortcut menu. Now you could do that if you want. The only thing is, look, if I right click on the background I get the tools, but I also get the shortcut menu. Now that's not so busy because it's the smaller shortcut menu, but it still maybe is a bit too much clutter for you. And if you right click on a note now, you'll get the tools and a longer shortcut menu. So if you want, you can have it like that, it's up to you. But if you have it opening just the tools menu, then use control and left click on the background or on a note to bring up the menus. Okay, so now the smaller shortcut menu, well, we've got paste original position, that is in the edit menu, so be aware you can come here to do that quicker than going up to the edit menu. All the others though, all these other commands are in the edit menu. Velocity colors, region colors, MIDI channel colors and scroll and play are in the view menu. The only thing in this menu that we haven't seen is create note, but I say don't bother with it, do it with the pencil. Right, if I just define this as the default note. Now this command in the shortcut menu, let's say I put my mouse on this C7 line here and I'm going to click just here in this division here, so the nearest grid line is this grid line to the left. So I position the mouse on this pitch at this position, hold down control, left click to bring up the shortcut menu and do create note. And it puts in a note there, but what a palaver, why not just get the pencil tool and pencil it in, right? So forget that. Okay, so that shortcut menu, the only thing really useful to go here for is paste original position, which is quicker than going up to the edit menu. Or if you want to do the select overlapped events, which is in the functions note events menu. No, it's not, it's in the edit menu as well. Select overlapped events, there it is, yeah, sorry. Select muted events, well that's a key command we should learn. Shift and M, select all, standard command, so that, you know, there's nothing really in this menu you need, except it's useful to go to paste original position. It's quicker than doing it up at the edit menu. Okay, so that's that one. The larger shortcut menu, well, we know define as default note. We choose a note, hold down control, left click, define as a default note, and then every note we pencil in after that is that length and velocity, right? Apart from that, everything here is in the edit menu. All these are in the edit menu, so they're just shortcuts. We've covered these already. This little section here, this is the note overlap and the force legato commands that are in the functions note events menu, and apart from that there are the region, velocity and MIDI channel colors which are in the view menu. So the only things that we haven't seen in this longer shortcut menu is the event transposing here and the nudging here. Now again, these are all key commands you should learn, so no need to go to the menu to perform them. So let's look at the event transposing first. It's simply Alt and arrow up or down to transpose by a semitone, and Alt Shift and arrow up or down for an octave. Simple. So you just grab a couple of notes or a bunch of notes or a single note and you hold down Alt, arrow up, moves it by a semitone, arrow down, by a semitone up and down, holding down Alt. Use the up and down arrow keys. If you then bring in Shift, Alt and arrow up or down, it's moving up and down by an octave. Really, really easy. So that just leaves this nudging. Again, there are two key commands. Nudge to the left is Alt and left arrow. Nudge to the right is Alt and right arrow. And then all we have to do is go here to set our nudge value. And the nudge values are bar, beat, division and ticks. You'll tend to mostly use division and ticks. There are these video based nudge values here, and also some millisecond nudge values and a sample nudge value, but you'll tend to just use division and ticks most of the time, maybe beat occasionally. So you set your nudge value, in this case we'll choose divisions like that, and then all you do is remember that nudging to the left is Alt and left arrow, and nudging to the right is Alt and right arrow. So let's have a look at that nudging now. It's a very, very creative little function actually. I've got a little lick here. There we are. It's a simple simple little electric piano chord, and it sounds like this. Without the beat, it sounds like this. Very, very simple lick, yeah? And then we bring in a 909 beat with it. Now there we have our lick. At the moment it's on the beat, square on the third beat. Bump, bump, ba-da, bump, bump, ba-da. But now with our nudge value set to divisions, we hold down Alt, and with the whole lot highlighted, we can boot it around by a division in either direction by holding down Alt and using the left and right arrows. Now this nudges by the value, so if I were to drag this little group away from the division line, right, even if our snap to absolute value is on and we're in a snap of divisions, it doesn't make any difference. When I'm nudging, it nudges by the nudge value, in this case divisions, using the left and right arrow key while holding down Alt, nudge. And conveniently, holding down Alt and then using the up arrow or the down arrow will move it up and down by a semitone, but you know, that's just a little extra. But we're concentrating on the nudging now, and what we're doing is we're booting this chord around by a division distance each time, left or right. I'll just snap it back to the grid actually. And this allows us to do basically what a DJ does. It's like a DJ taking two vinyls, a beat vinyl on one vinyl, he's got a 909 beat, and on another vinyl he's got a little keyboard lick, and he's simply offsetting the two of them in time, offsetting their sync, so that the keyboard lick is offset to the beat in different positions along the beat, and it gives either a different feel or it puts the lick in at a different position. And you sort of just fiddle around doing that and listen and imagine in your head starts to hear things in the gaps and stuff. And well, let's try it. Here we go. Come on, play. Hey, come on, it's a screen grab software, right? Here we go. So that's square. Ba-da, ba-da. And by the way, when I talk over this, if I'm trying to talk in time or sing along with this in time, because of the screen grab delay, there will be a timing delay. So when I do sing along, it's not that I'm singing out of time, it's just that there's a large millisecond delay on the timing, right? Okay, so but you just listen to the beat, and at the moment it's square, like bum bum ba 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 da. So it's bum 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 ba da. It's quite square, bum bum ba da. But if we boot it this way by a division, it goes sort of, it gives it a groove and a swing. Now it's bum bum ba ba da bum. Move it again, and it's now going to be square again. Bum bum ba da, bum bum ba da. Move it again, and we get this. Bum ba da da, ba da da. And you just boot it around. Now that lick there is a different feel to this, and that's different to this. So by booting around in just divisions, we found that there are different places in a beat, just within one beat now, where the lick can go, and it's got different grooves. If it's on the beat like that, we get bum bum ba da. If we move it forward by a division, we get bum ba da da ba da da. Okay, move it forward by another division, so the smaller lick notes are on the beat line. We get this. Okay, which is different to that. Just subtly different. And then if we go back one division from the grid line, we get this. Go back again, we get this. Well, we know what that is. Yeah, so we got those different feels for the lick. But the best ones tend to be sort of like there. And here. That's their more offbeat groovy licks, and on the beat it's more like that. Yeah. Yeah. But you let it play around, and you just can imagine things in your head. With the beat being in different places, you can imagine little vocal lines in front or behind, offset against that lick. You know. As I say, my singing now will go out of time with the beat a bit, but you kind of get the idea. You just sort of, you hear that lick going around, you boot it around, and you hear different things, and you can imagine different, either little vocal licks in front or behind that little lick, or little synth licks or something. Yeah, you can. It's a good way of finding little things out, like by accident. You just experiment, yeah. So you start to hear things. Or whatever, you know. Then you think, oh, I'll boot it forward a bit, and let's hear that. Or whatever, you know, for some sort of vocal housey track or something, you know. And on the beat's more square. Or whatever, yeah. And of course you can do things like, you can say, well, what happens if I drag these further apart? Let's hear them that far apart. Another lick there. Boot them forward. Again, different grooves. Da 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 da, whatever, you know what I mean? And each time you move it around, you start hearing different things. Yeah, or you could say, well, what about reversing it the other way round? Let's move it back to front. Let's hear it like that. Actually, these need to be slightly further apart. Right, let's hear that. There's another lick. So there's one lick there, and then there's one lick there. It's just like offsetting the sync between two vinyls. As I said, allows you to discover all those things. If you just leave your mind alone, leave your logical brain alone, and just experiment, it can be quite interesting. So we know this lick kind of like works, that lick there. Move it to there. Yeah. Oh, well, then you could say, all right, drag off a copy using Alt. Let's drag off a copy and see what the two of them sound like. Okay, now they're an even distance apart, so when we move, they both playing this almost the same. Let's try moving them another division apart. Let's hear that. Nah, that doesn't work, does it, so successfully? Alright, let's bring them back together. Let's try moving them nearer. That's probably too close together. Oh, it still is something. So then you might hear that and think, oh, I wonder what it sounds like with those knocked out actually. See what I mean? And all of a sudden you're creating things that maybe you didn't think about. You didn't think that these things might happen like that. It's quite interesting. I mean, I could try bringing these ones nearer. Let's try that. You know what I mean? Different lick each time. So it's incredibly useful for being creative, you know. I mean, and it works the same with single patterns, you know. I mean, if I took this, if I dragged this in a bit like that or something and dragged off another copy, I mean, we've got that. We can boot that around. Boot it the other way. That's different. Now, if you boot it and one note goes outside the pattern, if it works, so what? Delete that note. You know, just free up your mind a bit and just experiment like that. And nudging is fantastic. And the other thing it's really good for is, let me just undo all that. The other thing it's really good for is you can put the nudge value. I mean, let's say that lick's quite okay there. It's in a groovy position. Okay, but what you can do is you can then put the nudge value into ticks, and then you can. It also allows you to experiment by subtly moving something around, and sometimes that can make all the difference in the case of a row of percussion notes or a row of hi-hat notes or something. Just highlighting the hats and subtly moving them in ticks. So we've got a nudge of ticks now. I'm going to use Alt and left and right arrow. I'm using left arrow with Alt now, and it's moving it just ticks at a time to the left and right. It allows us to offset something subtly and hear how just moving it a little bit changes the timing subtly, but without having to use the mouse. Do you know what I mean? So it's also good for just nudging a pattern or a row of notes or something around subtly in ticks. Just doesn't have to. You don't have to use the mouse, because it might be that just moving something around in time by little amounts like that, and you'll finally get it spot on as you want it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So fantastic. And you can do the same thing with samples, of course. Now, I've set up a little example here, but it's not very good. But if you obviously would find a good loop and something like that. But let's say here. What have I got? Hang on. Yeah, it's just a simple bass lick in the XS sampler, but of course it's triggered by a note. So you could do the same thing as what is it? C2, I think, is the root key. So you just get the pencil tool and draw in a C2 note. That should trigger the bass line. Let's raise the velocity a bit. So there's a little bass lick in the sampler. You can do the same thing. You can put sample loops in and nudge those around in time against a drum machine beat and offset the sync of a sample loop against whatever is playing against it, you know. Now, this is not a great example, you know, I haven't had time to set something up properly, but you get the idea, you know. If you do work with samples, you can try this. You know, you can put beats and different other sample loops in, and then just kick them around and try hearing what they sound like being synced at different offsets to the main beat. And I'll tell you what I'll do actually, because it's a long lick followed by a little lick. I'll actually reverse that. Just see what happens. Why not? Let's reverse it. So there you got that. You know, it's not a great example, but obviously, you know, different samples booted around at different syncs to the beat yield different results, you know. Now, not a brilliant example, but you know, in this case it works kind of in that position or on the beat. You know, or but not so well there or there. Yeah, but you get the idea. You can also have sample loops assigned to a note and boot the note around and things like that. So it can be very, very creative, you know, because you don't really know what might come out the other end, especially for licks and things, because often with the grooves, you know, in dance and pop crossover, and all sorts of different types of genres, right? The whole thing about a groove is not so much about what is there, it's about what's missing. You know, it's as much about the gaps as about the things that are playing, you know. You know, lovely. Drag off a copy. Yeah, that's a nice lick, you know, and I might think, well, sod that in row notes, I'll just leave those out. Let's try booting just that around. Or whatever, you know what I mean? Boot it around somewhere different and hear it differently. Or whatever. Okay. So that's nudging, very, very useful, especially for creative purposes, and if it's put into ticks, for very finely booting something around up and down in time, just to hear, you know, as you move it around just by subtle amounts. It can often change the groove just right, you know, make a difference between it being really groovy and really, really groovy. Do you know what I mean? Just so great. That's nudging. And that is your shortcut menus, alright?